for those that don't know, we are representatively here at the Vineyard Haven Harbor Cultural District, and we have been hosting these open meetings 2 years, 3 years?
This marks our third.
This is the third year?
Yeah.
Through the off season, mostly once a month we hold these meetings, and this one is about music. Some of them are about different things. We have a couple planned in the future, but we have had meetings about local art projects, about the art markets that happen in the season. We've had a couple about music. This one primarily is going to be music-centric. And we're going to talk about island music. We're going to talk about the open mics and music and event spaces in town, and some of the challenges and some of the things we hope to see in the future. Anything else before I dive into the agenda that you guys have to
Should we do a
contribute?
real quick intro of who these faces are?
Yeah, let's do that.
Rachel Lamron, board member.
Amy Benford, board member.
Taylor Stone, board member, and First Friday organizer.
Thanks, clerk.
Oh yeah, and clerk. Lux Kisselgoff, work at Island Music.
Andy Herr.
Phil Wallace, chairman.
Althea, president.
Amy Ryan, board member and library director.
Yay.
So, hello.
So the first thing we have to talk about, and a lot of you probably saw the wonderful article that Jesse wrote for the V-Times, that we have a music store that is in jeopardy of going away. This was largely predicated by the longtime owner, Ed Griggs, passing away in April. And he was really the heart and soul of the start of that business. And then that business was sustained largely from the work of Becky and Rich, who are now planning to leave. The current status of the store right now, for those that don't know, is that the lease is up on the building. The business does not own the building, and the lease is up at the end of December. So the store is in the process of liquidating. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to go away, but if nothing happens, that is the scenario we're talking about. Becky and Rich have been training Lux here to take over management of the store, both for that liquidation and also in the event that we can potentially make something happen to save the store. There are quite a few scenarios that could potentially happen that would save this fixture. At the very simplest scenario is that the business is purchased by a sole proprietor and they take up the lease. There are a couple problems with that scenario. Some of you are aware that the building was crashed into by a car in August. That definitely complicated things. It is a prohibitively expensive rental storefront. You probably could have guessed that the brick and mortar music business and most of brick and mortar retail barely scrapes by on its margins. It is not a highly profitable business. It can be profitable, but it has not shown huge profitability in its current state to be able to withstand increasing rent costs and a building that is over 100 years old and needs significant maintenance. It's in poor shape. So the short-term scenario, whether it's the business is taken over by a sole proprietor or by an investment group, nonprofit, or some kind of co-op entity, the building owner needs to be approached to renew that lease. Just getting in touch with that person is difficult. They don't live here. They don't have very strong ties to the island like her family did. Despite that, she will need to take action at some point, especially because she has a compromised storefront that will be very challenging to rent to anybody while she's still in litigation with her insurance to be able to repair the storefront next door. While it doesn't impact the ability right now for Island Music to be able to do business in there, it most definitely inhibits the foot traffic coming into the store. If someone took over the lease for the 2026 year, that would be a serious a serious thing to overcome in addition to paying a higher rent. So that's kind of the short-term prospect, but in the long term, somebody is probably either going to need to move the business in one scenario, or actually look at buying and renovating the building. And I've been talking to a number of different people, groups of people, about how we can make this happen. Both looking for people, large and small levels of donations, to at least in the temporary to be able to continue the services, and then in the long term to be able to buy and rehabilitate the building. I have largely gotten interest from these people from a pipe dream drawing of mine of a potential combining of the two storefronts, which if anybody knew, and I wasn't really around to see this, that 58 Main Street used to be a single storefront.
The thrift shop.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it could be turned into that again. My harebrained idea would be especially poignant, since Mocha Mott's Vineyard Haven is looking to close, would be to open something somewhat similar in the space next door. A cafe, limited food eatery, something kind of simple, inexpensive, to be kind of like a lounge space, partly opened up to the music store, and have the music store be able to convert part of the store into a performance space. This would be a large undertaking, to say the least. But it is one way to potentially save the store and turn it around and make it into something better that could be a fixture for the whole island, cultural fixture for the whole island. If we get enough support, just from vocal support from people, it will really help to encourage those that are trying to make this happen to go through with it and to execute this plan. So I am hopeful, but there are a lot of details that still need to be ironed out to make that happen. This is not the only option. There are other places where island music can exist, and whether they would be more or less suitable somewhat depends on what services are important that the store provides, right? A lot of people just have a relationship with the store as a retail establishment, but there are a lot of other things that happen in there. We have two to three teachers that are teaching lessons to kids and adults through the store hours. One of the biggest services that some of you know they are an affiliate that rents all of the rental instruments for the school's bands. And if the store closes, somebody is going to need to do that work, all that administrative work. It's either going to be the teachers, the schools, or the parents of those kids. So that is a fairly important service and not an insignificant amount of profitability for the store also. There are also repair services. Rich Jimo, some of you might know, has repaired countless numbers of my instruments and my students' instruments. That's a pretty considerable service that he still plans to provide whether the store exists in its current location or not. That having been said, it is really handy for such services to have an easily accessible place where people don't have to carry their instrument in and where there's space to have a backstock of instruments for him to work through. So those things can be taken into consideration in looking for a alternate storefront, but the one that exists now really is preferential for a lot of reasons. It's in a great location. It has some amount of historical significance. I don't know how many of you have read the little inscription on the Portland Gale shipmast that's holding up the building. But it is an important fixture right in the middle of town, and in the midst of having all of these things close in town, we've lost our pharmacy, EduComp, right? Mocha Mott's Vineyard Haven is going away. We have several DOA buildings sitting in the middle of town, right? So I think it's important for reasons even beyond the services that the store provides to retain some amount of gravity and cohesion in the middle of town to have a town. So these are the scenarios. but feel like I've been going on forever, and I really do mostly want to hear from everybody else. Before I open it up to general discussion, though, I want to introduce everybody to Lux, and Lux is Island Music right now. If Island Music continues, it will be through the work and help of Lux. Do you have anything that you want to say about your part in this?
Well, first off, never expected to be in this position, especially not a year ago. A lot of people might question why someone so young has gotten this far with the store, and my best answer to that would be that I just kind of naturally acclimated to it, especially when it comes to guitar repair, and that is something that I'm planning on pursuing whether or not the store continues either in that space, somewhere else, or not at all, temporarily. I do believe that I will be involved, as will you, in some iteration of a music store in the future, even if there is a gap where there isn't something open to the public. But, you know, someone's got to work on it, and if Rich and Becky are done, which just want to say that that is something we should respect. They've been there for a decade each, and it's just about time. Then someone has to do it. And I've known these guys for my entire life. I've been going to Island Music my entire life. I was in the band program when I was in middle school, when I was in high school for a little bit. I've been going to that store. I've been buying CDs, I've been buying records, I've been buying guitar strings. It's been a long relationship between me and this store. You know, fun fact, I actually put in my resume about 4 years ago, and then once Ed passed away, they revealed they needed a little help, and I was more than happy. So, really grateful things worked out for me, and I am trying to do my part and provide for the island community that I grew up in, especially when it comes to music, because that's something that is really close to my heart. It's really important to me. I cannot stress that enough. I'll do what I need to do.
And that's what's needed.
Yeah.
We don't just need a business and a building. It's even more important that we have somebody that cares to run it. And all of the other things we care about. We do have a potential scenario of not saving the music store in its current location at this current time, right? Somebody else could open up a music store. There would be pros and cons to that. Opening a store that is a music store that's not Island Music. Aside from a 3+ decades of brand recognition, the store has worked up some really beneficial relationships with distributors. That's not an easy thing to do. It takes a lot of time, a lot of know-how, and if you lose those contracts, it's a big deal to start them up, not just with the companies for retail, but also with Music and Arts, the company that does the rentals for the band instruments. So that scenario exists. I don't know. There are pros and cons on that end. I think it would probably be easier to keep Island Music going than to start fresh. One other thing I didn't mention was my own open mics that I've been running at the store for almost 9 years, which I intend, we'll talk about that a little bit more later, but I do plan to continue those in some way, shape, or form regardless. What do you guys think?
Yay, Island Music.
Yeah?
So I'll open my mouth because I always do. I sat up there for 25 years as a selectman. I started the buskering program in Tisbury. And I'm mentioning all this because I also, we worked with maybe other people here years ago all over the island with the Wintertide Coffee House. And then Wintertide moved actually to Five Corners. And so we always had kind of music and refreshments and a community center. And this music store, especially adding the open mic, But along with Mocha Mott's, this is where I'm concerned in a way. You know, we had like a place for a community to congregate. They were in two different spots, but served a similar function. I mean, obviously you talked about the music store. And I think that's the thing that we need to work toward, is to have a place, a community place where people can sit, read, talk, chat, hear music, buy, buy strings. Maybe I think that this is something that, I'm old, so I'm going to be patronizing, but younger people, you're going to lose. We all got to fight to keep our community, because otherwise it will be T-shirt shops and restaurants. And there's nothing wrong with T-shirt shops and restaurants, but you want to have other things beside that. So I think it's really critical, and there's a lot of people in here probably much smarter than I am, to try and by the way, the first Fridays are awesome, so that's been a tremendous addition to our town, because that's the human part of our town, that's the local part of our town, and so, I guess, I'm, and there are others, I think, willing to do what we can to try and keep this community. So, that's everybody here, whatever you can do to advance that, all of it, and I'm talking about community. I'm not even talking about music, man. By the way, we used to do First Fridays here in the 90s, which was open mic, and it was fun, but you can't bring, you're not supposed to bring, I'm violating Tisbury's rules by not having a coffee in here. But that's what we need to do, and I'm just an old dude, but some of you, especially younger people, let's make this happen one way or another, because it's vital. It's the heart of our town, Mocha Mott's leaving. It's huge. So we're going to get together and meet, up Island somewhere or in Oak Bluff somewhere. No, we should be, should be the town of Tisbury, and we have our own character and our own shtick, if I can use that. So I'll shut up, but it's a really important, I think this is a very seminal moment in the history of our town. And so,
Tristan, do you mind if I add on a little bit?
Absolutely.
So many of you might actually know me from Mocha Mott's. I was there for about a year and a half. And I just wanted to connect a term to a concept real quick, the term third spaces. First spaces being home, second spaces being work, third spaces being a community space. And without third spaces, it is really hard for communities to, I would maybe self-sustain would be the word.
Yeah.
Without a place for people to connect, people grow antisocial, and there's mental health crises that rise. So something that I always tried to bring to Mott's when I worked there was the concept of a third space exists because you can go there, but you don't technically have to spend any money to just hang out. Like you were saying, reading, doing work, that was constantly. Like half of the clientele at Mott's, I want to say, was just people going in on their laptops, getting work done. And sometimes they'd buy a coffee, sometimes they wouldn't. Still, they were allowed to exist in that space and get done what they needed to get done. And island music is that, but for musicians. And so if we don't have that, it's a higher jump for especially new musicians starting, getting used to it. Without that space and the encouragement, that safe space, it's going to be a lot harder for younger musicians to get into playing at all, especially without open mic nights.
I will say, most, if not all, of the musicians that have moved onto the island since I have been spending off seasons here have played at least once at that open mic. One of them's in this room. Dan?
Can I, before also, like, a lot of us know a lot of us, but not necessarily know everybody. So if you are going to speak, can you say your name first so that we know who you are?
Helpful, thank you, Ted.
So, so I'm Andy Herr. It sounds like, I mean, everybody pretty much agrees that the idea of a mixed environment is kind of the way to go. So basically, I think what you have is a square footage that can make good money, and you need to divide that square footage up and say, what does it cost to cover that square footage? And then by using mixed profit input, you'll be able to cover that. Whereas, say, Mocha Mott's couldn't really make enough profit to cover the square footage they have. The music store doesn't have enough to cover what they have. Where if you come in and go, well, we're going to mix the two, we have profit streams coming in and maybe something from the town or whatever else would help subsidize it. So from the free profit inputs or money inputs, you would be able to do that. But I think you also have a secondary problem of you need mixed capital, which one person I don't think is going to walk in and go, I love this place, and write a check. So obviously you're going to need, I think it's a great idea. I think you're going to need a group of people come in and go, we want to do it, we want to help set this up, and hopefully the person that's going to be selling the building would be willing to cut some time for you. So it was like, we'll withhold demanding payment at this time as long as you're doing capital improvements on the building. So there's options to do that. But I think the profit stream coming in from 3 different events, whatever, would actually probably work.
Lee, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Lee Briggs. I'm Ed's wife. And so I've been involved in the store for probably about 25 years. And Ed had it for 34 years. And what you're talking about right now is really what Ed wanted. That was his dream, was to have a mixed place like that. We tried it several times with the town, and at the time they wouldn't allow us to do anything like that. And I think that was what he really wanted to do. His plan was, at certain times, was to retire there and work in the store and just, hang out there all the time. The store held its own. It always made a little bit of a profit. During COVID maybe, and during the recession in 2008, 2009, we had to prop it up a little bit. But we worked hard on our own jobs and everything, so we didn't get to spend as much time there as we wanted to. But Rich and Becky did great the last 10 years. But and Ed, many times when the rates would go up for the lease, we would be like, okay, we can't do it. We just can't do it. But every time we managed to make it through, we always did. And I think that it can make a good profit, especially if it's managed right and it has those other options too. I think it would be an excellent place.
I come here to get a feeling of what you're doing. Now, I'm saying things that you already know, but I just want you to know that on Lagoon Pond Road, at 35 Lagoon Pond Road, I live there 24 hours a day. I love living in this town. I came from Edgartown. I am so lucky. I see Nat over there. The marina, the whatever, the boating community. You cannot pick a better, precious, lovely community in the world that has more potential than what this island town has. And I'm sorry, I'm not saying anything brilliant to you that you haven't already thought yourself, but I just feel it needs to be part of this meeting from somebody who lives in downtown Vineyard Haven.
Thank you.
The That almost sounded like an annual town meeting speech.
Are you running for something?
No, he's right here.
Well, many of you already know that I'm a big talker, so I had to hold myself in restraint.
Well, Mark, I have one clarifying question to ask you, and if you can't answer it, maybe somebody else in the room can. What did cause the closure of the Wintertide?
Well, in my own opinion, it became, love Tony, love you up there.
Yeah, Tony.
It became less local in my mind. They started bringing, we used to be like, it was all island musicians, and we moved around the island, had various locations, and finally found a home there. Tony became the manager, did a wonderful job managing, but I think maybe to generate whatever, so they started bringing in big name acts. It was kind of cool in the beginning because some of us locals could, be the opening act for a big, and then it stopped. This is just my own opinion. I'm sure others have others.
Can you know that's my opinion too?
It stopped being.
That's my opinion.
It stopped being for local musicians. I think so. Whatever has happened after that, to me, it was not the local place.
Issues of scope, maybe.
Yeah,
Scalability.
It's dangerous business when you try and run a nightclub or evening facility. It do not include the local community.
Yeah.
And we saw that at the Hot Tin Roof, when we've seen that. I saw that at the Boston House. It's a series, the dance you have to do to marriage the community to a community center is hard. It's not prescription. You can't pick it off the shelf and follow it. And what Tristan said is absolutely right, because there were, they had hot name musicians who come and performed at Wintertide, and the local people were like, and where was the following? If you didn't have the audience showing up, where was the core? Where was the core community? You lost it. So that's another discussion, but thank you for asking, because I think Wintertide was wonderful. I had Gail Huntington perform at Wintertide when it was at the church. It was so much fun to celebrate this island community's music.
Well, Mark, it's interesting that you say that, because that, as our board talks about this all the time, is the fact that this town lacks a community center. Yeah. We don't have a space that is available to us to activate as a community center. This is the closest we can get, but we can't integrate the food element into it to create a real, you have the Chilmark Community Center, you have the Grange Hall, or the Ag Hall, you have various places like the Whaling Church in Edgartown, and so that comes up with us a lot when we're talking about all the different communities.
I have a comeback for you on that. This is a subject that's deep inside me, and I don't have an opportunity very often to speak up publicly about it. Do you mind if I go on? This facility right here, Tristan and I have put on concerts in here. He and I have done stuff independent of each other. We're folk singers. We're core. We could walk to this place and put on a show. Something has happened to this facility that makes it unaffordable to a local musician to be able to put it to. Am I right, Tristan? It's hard.
Yeah.
I will say that this is on the agenda, and I don't want to cut off the discussion about island music. But we will get back to Katherine Cornell, I promise you, because we're going to also talk about other community spaces in town as part of this discussion. But I want to still get some viewpoints on the store, because it is an immediate an immediate peril, right? We're talking about something that's going to happen in a month. Tim.
Hi, Andy. I'm Tim Dole. Most of you probably know me. I'm a co-owner of Oak Mods, and probably what you don't know is that before the Wintertide was the Wintertide, it was the Ocean Club, and I was part of that.
Yep.
And I've been in this town for a long, long time. And as much goodwill as you can generate when it comes to that kind of a spot and these kinds of things, it always ends up being about the money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you pay the rent? Can you pay who owns the facility enough so you can do what you want in the facility? And it's unfortunate, but, you know, that's generally the bottom line. And from what I can understand, that's what's going on with the store. Can we get enough cashola together somehow? You know, and we've talked about this, Andy, there's an awful lot of deep pockets on this island, and to create a situation to make it a nonprofit, because what it has to do, if we can get it to that point where it breaks even and nobody's going to keep upping the rent on you, then you can make it work. But if you keep kicking the rent, and I suspect, although I don't know for sure, that's probably what happened in the wintertime. You know, somebody wasn't getting paid their rent and they moved on, because that's what always happens.
Yeah.
So I think our best bet is to try to come at this from the point of view of creating a community situation where we can raise money and buy either that spot or have another spot where all of us island musicians can go and things can happen and people's energy, creative energy can go into it, but it's got to be solvent. Somehow we have to create a situation to make it solvent, or you just end up chasing your tail all the time. Because that's just the way it is.
Thank you, Tim. Right on the head. Yeah, if we any part of a successful long-term plan includes acquiring a building, whether it's that one or another one, because of that exact reason. And it is part of the scenarios really that a couple of us have been working towards. We do have this cultural district itself is a 501c3. Phil Wallace also has a 501c3 that he formed for the Harbor Works project that could potentially be kind of a holding scenario for large donors. But we have to have this proof of concept first. And ultimately that organization could operate in a number of ways, either you know, being a co-op or cooperatively run as a part of that nonprofit, or it could just be an investment group with an S corp and stakes in the business. But yeah, without owning the building, you're going to have profitability issues. And yes, ultimately it's about the money. If you can't make the money part work, you can't make it successful. And unless we're going to brand it as a community center and talk to the Preservation Trust or somebody else about buying and operating a building, that is what this has to be, a business in some way, shape, or form. That could have more or less of a focus on retail versus the other services that are provided, but it still is a business.
I just wanted, this is like a future scenario, and I don't know from an economic point of view for the town or not, it'll happen in the short term. The town wants to build a consolidated town hall campus area up by High Point Lane.
Yes.
If that happens, and we've always talked about this building, this theater, you know, the town, it's not the town's fault. The town's not in the business of keeping up this kind of facility. But somewhere down the road, it's just something to put in the back of people's heads. This building might be the Preservation Trust. The town's already been talking to the Preservation Trust, and there might be some opportunity down the road. It's just something to keep filed away for the future.
Here's hoping, and on that, and I know this was later in the agenda, but we did, I think a few of you were here, we had a music-related discussion it was more than, it was a year and a half ago. It was spring 2024. I led a similar meeting in this space, and one of the things that we discussed was taking over the responsibility for handling entertainment booking this space as the cultural district. At the time, we had a quiet quitting, outgoing town administrator, and now we have a new town administrator who is busy. So TBD on that, but we are going to continue to look at increasing the utilization of this space and facilitating that, making it easier, more accessible. It is important to a lot of people.
Elaine and.
Oh.
Yeah.
I just had a real quick comment, and I think it's just coalescing everything that everybody's, well, my name's Elaine Bars, I have a business in town. But anyhow, it's coalescing everything. It's the money, it's the community interest. I mean, you have to not forget that that building, I don't even know if it's listed, probably my guess isn't. But there's a lot of above, there's what, 4 apartments up there?
7.
Yeah.
7.
7 apartments. I mean, that's a good investment property for somebody to think about and to get involved in.
Right.
You know, and so any kind of thing, you know, hopefully, and I suggest this to discuss, you know, the future of island music, because that's a short-term goal, and, you know, tell that person who wants to sell that building, please let us talk to whoever you're talking to. You know, because we have a good idea, we can pitch this, you know. You already heard that it was a successful business, it was paying its rent. So if it was paying its rent for 30 years, there's no reason that that cannot be expanded upon. And that's really important, is to maintain those relationships with the realtor, who's ever listing it, with, you know, talk to some of these developers. I mean, we all know a couple of these people by first name, you know, and some of the businesses that have already established successful businesses on this island, you know, whether it's like someplace like Offshore wants to maybe perhaps manage part of it, you know, do an offshoot like that. They do their music, you know, like, don't forget that that's going to be the strongest part of our community, is the networking that we already have, and that's all I'm saying.
Thank you for reminding me of that, because I glossed over that detail. There are a lot of details to cover here. But there are 7 housing units upstairs, and another, what I consider to be a crucial element of success in this pipe dream would be retaining at least 1 or 2 of those housing units to be employee housing. You must do it. And this gets to another problem that I wanted to discuss as part of this meeting, but it's not on the agenda. That we have human sustainability issues in general on the island, in the arts, but just in general. We have a great ability to find these wealthy donors to be able to build new buildings and additions and things like that, but we are horribly lacking at being able to raise money to pay them. One of the reasons, I'm sure, despite the fact that they would probably never tell you this, is that despite the business, you know, being able to eke out a profit, it's hard for a couple like Becky and Rich to think about staying in a job like that in the long term if they don't have housing and they aren't able to make a competitive salary. It's just not, you're not going to be able to hold on to people that care. So you have to either be able to make enough money to provide a competitive wage, or you have to supplement that with housing. And that possibility exists in the purchase of this building, and it would have to in an alternate building location, I think. Thank you, Elaine. And the bit about cooperation too is not lost. It's a pretty important thing among us event producers to be on the same page about when things are happening and collaborating and not.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be a great investment opportunity for somebody if you get the right person who's thinking proactively towards their sustainability as well as the communities.
Andy, when we were discussing this at our board meeting, you had mentioned about, you know, the services that the shop provides, not just the retail store element of it, but a multitude of services that provide to the island community as a whole. And that is a source of income as well. But I'm also curious if what some of the feedback you might have gotten from some of the people who do rent from the shop, like the instruments and things, from like people who are working with the schools and the bands, and have you heard from them any thoughts or ideas or concerns about the future of the Island Music Store?
I don't think that I'm not sure that any of them are aware of the amount of work they're about to take on.
It would be interesting to reach out to them, I think, to find out, you know, where they would stand on helping to solve this sort of colossal island problem in terms of how music and the service elements of it are going to be impacted.
Rachel, that's a question I would direct to Lux, because she has been working in the store, and you just went through a rental season, am I right? Did you have any interaction with the teachers at the schools?
Yeah, so I would describe this rental season as a little bit slow. And I think that is as far as I'm going to comment on that. But I do have insight on the process, and when we are suggesting that either the teachers or the parents are going to have to deal with that, I can say that as far as bickering between coworkers go, music and arts comes up a lot. Music and arts comes up a lot. If music and arts is willing to work with the schools.
Oh, Music and Arts is the company.
Oh, yeah, subsidiary of Guitar Center, I want to say that. So it's pretty corporate, and we're lucky to have a pretty good guy on the inside, and he's been helping us out for a good long time, it sounds. So anyway, back to what I was saying about the teachers. They might be willing to work something out where they ship directly to the schools, but I can say that what they do off the island a lot is shipping directly to the household.
Yeah.
So on the website, when you go to sign up for rentals, there is a pickup and there's a delivery option. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with the post offices here, but could you imagine how difficult it would be to get all of these rentals in on time, shipped individually to the families? And when we mention barriers to young musicians, starting to get passionate, starting their craft, that is one of them, and it is very significant. I mean, and if we're not gonna go, and by we, I mean like parents and students, if they're not going the shipping route, then the nearest place to pick up an instrument, I believe, is Buzzards Bay. And that is a nightmare. That is a nightmare, and I know a lot of parents who are not going to want to go off the island to get a rental instrument, especially when it comes to exchanging. Like, there's a lot of these kids who try out an instrument and figure out it's not for them. And that usually happens within the first couple months of them playing. But it can happen anytime. And that's something very valuable that the music store offers right now, and has offered in the past, is keeping a back stock of instruments, so the kid doesn't have to wait like 2 weeks in between trumpet to flute. If they've switched, they can just bring the trumpet to the store, file an exchange, get the flute, and then continue with their teachers at the school.
That is one of the biggest hurdles.
That is really big.
Well, the schools do not necessarily have space to devote to having a whole bunch of band instruments on hand. So that would potentially go away with the direct shipping, and that's a big deal, because if you are a kid and your classmates are all playing in the band for a month and you have to wait because you want to change instruments or your instrument breaks or something like that, you're going to feel really left behind, and you're going to feel like it's hard to catch up, and you're probably going to put it down.
And you're gonna lose motivation. It's just gonna die, and you can't have that. So when we're talking about these different scenarios and the various contracts that the store holds, the purchase of island music is still the best option for that reason. So if we can get to a point where that can happen, and
some swift action, that contract
swift.
could be, and that relationship with that rep could be retained. But we got like a month, less than a month,
I would say
for that
less
to
than a
be
month.
able to happen.
What do you hope to come from tonight's discussion and from people here that would help with that moving forward?
Ideas and support.
And how can they connect with you about those?
And engaging your interest in what's important to you. We do have a mailing list.
Just as we're approaching 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, Eric?
Yeah, Eric Lowe here. Is the building for sale? I mean, you know, getting back to the idea of this whole thing,
And how much?
you know, it's really about the, you know, doing something soon. Is the building even for sale?
I've spoken with the owner, the answer is yes.
Oh,
Is
good.
it
And
listed?
how much?
No.
Not
And
listed.
if it is for sale, does it need structural
Yes.
Yes.
rebuilding before
Yes.
it can be opened
We need a
again?
wealthy angel or
Are there any
angels.
figures available for that?
Or what?
Or if it needs to be fixed before it can be occupied again, are there any estimates as to what that would cost on top of the building?
We're actually working on that right now, but suffice it to say, the buildings, the asking price is, you know, in the 3.4, it's assessed at 1.6, you're gonna spend 1.5 plus
Yeah,
to get
$5
it
million
fixed
plus.
up. So you're talking $5 million. That's not gonna make it on Island Music. So you really need a nonprofit, a co-op, a wealthy angel who loves the island, loves music, and we can think of 3, 4, 5 right off the top of the head. Getting access to them is the most important.
Have you approached Ernie Bach Jr.?
That was on my
Everybody's
agenda.
thinking.
Is there, sorry, and Andy, I do recall you said something about potentially just trying to also figure out how to, for them to stay in the current location by maybe helping to fundraise to help them stay in their current location for now?
Well, there's a short-term plan and a long-term plan. The short-term plan would include negotiating in terms of a new lease to stay there while funds are raised for new building. And yeah, there could be a short-term fundraising effort, and that kind of depends on being able to negotiate that with the
Well,
building
maybe,
owner.
Andy, one of the things that people are interested in thinking, helping, or knowing who could help, there are several of us who are trying to have an engaged conversation with the owner again, okay? If we get a deal, you will know about it, but we're gonna need a lot of
Go
different
fund me if we get a
pocketbooks.
deal, right?
Yeah.
Your hand was up. I said,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Kadriye Pezade Kiara. I have been living on the island for the last 4 years. I'm Turkish. I love music. I know the island over 25 years. And I'm embarrassed that music is fading here. As soon as I learned it from the people from Island Music, I did some investigation. I talked to Margaret, who is the owner of the old Martha Closet.
Yeah.
She's selling her building. It's a small place. She's selling it for $650. I invited her here. I said I will talk about with some other friends for an idea on Thursday at 6 p.m. She might rent the place. I'm just trying to find a solution. You know, I myself can put some money into these ideas, little or big, you know, not too big, but it's so embarrassing. My Kadriye Pezade Kiara. I have been living on the island for the last 4 years. I'm Turkish. I love music. I know the island over 25 years. And I'm embarrassed that music is fading here. As soon as I learned it from the people from Island Music, I did some investigation. I talked to Margaret, who is the owner of the old Martha Closet.
Yeah.
She's selling her building. It's a small place. She's selling it for $650. I invited her here. I said I will talk about with some other friends for an idea on Thursday at 6 p.m. She might rent the place. I'm just trying to find a solution. You know, I myself can put some money into these ideas, little or big, you know, not too big, but it's so embarrassing. My son is a musician. I listen to every kind of music, and I was hoping to one day sing at the open microphone. I don't have the courage, but I can sing in different languages. I mean, Azeri and Turkish. If we were in Turkey, I would just ask you to put your hands, you know, I don't know the system here or anything, but I am embarrassed. I am not American that the island music is dying. Because I remember 20 years ago, there was a music shop in Falmouth. It was closed, and I was, oh my God, how they can close it? Because this is a place I find international musical instruments. I buy those instruments. My son is obsessed with these instruments because I am also a music lover, you know. I know a lot of things about music. I'm just a listener, and I can't. I feel so bad that I'm sitting here and I'm not able to do anything. But I have Margaret's number. She already knows about it. It's already on the what is it called?
Real estate sales.
It's in the agent.
It's listed.
It's in the list. Somebody can talk. I can't. I have no power. But you can do it, I'm sure. And they can rent it for a year. At least this building can be bought and can be redone, or I don't know. And I can understand the cinema. This is another topic. The cinema, the theater is over there for over how many years? I can't understand. We are spending millions of dollars. I shouldn't be talking like this, but on schools. I'm sorry, you know. I really don't understand. Really, it's not in my logic. It's not in my Middle East, European, Asian, whatever the logic is. I'm sorry.
No, you're not alone.
I'm really.
You're not alone in that.
I know. Sorry.
I
Yeah.
want to say, and I want to hear from everybody, but I do want to say that it is 7 o'clock, which normally we have these meetings for an hour. I am happy to continue this meeting for everybody who would like to stay. But we do normally keep these to an hour.
Let's keep going, and if anyone needs to leave, also, we don't think you're rude if you were only planning to be here till 7. So.
I do want to have everybody who would like to speak have a turn to speak. Go ahead.
I'll keep it quick. My name's Anna Fitch. My dad, Mike Fitch, lives right up the street at the corner Look and Spring here. Feza told me about the meeting. I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah.
Our kids go to Island Music for lessons and rent for bands, so we love Island Music. And just quickly brainstorming, not knowing too much about the leases or the buildings, but I thought of the movie theater, and it's used for the festival and it's used for the holiday market, but it's a building that isn't that's maybe underutilized for a Main Street business, and so the idea that maybe there was some way to flex use buildings that were already being paid for, and I know that's like maybe a rental situation, but I think it's a great idea to buy land, own land for community purposes. But there's also, if that's not happening on a shorter timeline, that I just got to throw that idea out there.
Thank you. And it is actually on this agenda, and I have explored and been kicking around the idea of working in that space for several years. I personally, and I've said this to everybody I've talked to about this, I don't want to personally be in a contractual agreement with the halls. I don't think I need to talk about why, but I think that there is a scenario that, collectively we could potentially use this space. And I've talked to Elaine before about maybe working with Visit Vineyard Haven, the Vineyard Haven Business Association, and us, the Cultural District, about working together with him to take out a lease to potentially make it available not just for us, but for other people to use, so that we can kind of rekindle that gravity in the middle of town. So it's on the radar. Thank you. Yes.
I'm just curious how far you've gotten as far as, has somebody started a nonprofit organization to address this? And what kinds of monies are coming in or pledged that they would want to be a part of this endeavor?
The Vineyard Haven Harbor Cultural District itself is a registered 501c3. It took us some time to get that status. We've now had it for not around a year.
Just over a year.
Yeah. We also have another nonprofit entity here with Phil,
There
who
are
has
plenty of
been.
nonprofits on that. And
Yeah.
but to your point, that would care and be able to deal with
Yeah, I'm
this.
just
So
thinking about, the nonprofit, and you have the board in place and all that kind of thing, so you can just go ahead and start doing the fundraising. Yeah, and then, has there been any promises of money?
I have personally had dozens and dozens of people offer to give me money. But we need somewhere a plan to funnel that into, right? And that's why we're here tonight, to talk about and discuss and get on the same page with both a short-term and a long-term plan and look at what the scenarios are. And so that we can tell people that, yes, we do have a plan and we're gonna do something great with your money, not, yes, give us your money, we don't know what we're doing yet, but yeah, help, right?
Can I ask a question as a board member to the board? We have committees that we've set up, and we have people who may be interested in working on specific projects that the cultural district can facilitate. And it seems like in order to really sort of capitalize on what we've brought together here today, that setting up a second follow-up meeting with those people who are really interested in really getting into this, to sit down with you and Aunt Phil and kind of get to the nuts and bolts of it and get the motivation going, because I think there are a lot of people here who seem like they want to be a part of the solution, but I think to get get that organized, where's the money going? We need a plan. You have a number of people in here who may want to sit down and work on that plan. And maybe the follow-up for where we are here today is to facilitate that next meeting with said people that want to jump in on something like that, so that you can get the ball rolling.
Yeah, I think the whole point of this is that everyone in here is connecting, and we're all here for the same reason. Really, we all want to, that's the point of the conversation, is we all care about saving the music and the community. So yeah, definitely, I think we have that email list, but it's really just literally meeting and hearing each other and a way to get to know each other and take some time to talk and connect and make a time and keep going, right? I mean, for sure.
Can I also interject? And if you are interested in helping out, I just want to say that I have been keeping a list of contacts, so if you ever have the time to make it into the music store, I can add you to that list and write down how you're interested in supporting the future of music on this island or a future music store on this island. So just come see me at the music store and we can talk.
And we took emails.
And also emails at the front. They were
There's
emails.
two parts, well, there's a million parts to this. So one is, which I think we're trying to find out, is the viability of that building being sold. And if the viability of that building, that there's an opportunity to buy it, that's one tangible path. If that's not the case, then there'll be another path that we all have to figure out together, what that's going to be. So I hopefully in the short term we'll have some answers on the former, and then there's a lot of energy, as you just said here, for the latter.
Could I add, and Andy, I think you've got the support from this group here to go ahead and a very broad sweeping idea that there will be a music store in downtown Vineyard Haven that will have open mics in it, that will be driven and energized by the community. I think you've got that message tonight, as you've already been getting it in the weeks past. The next step for you is to call in a very broad sweeping way. Let's get together and talk about what crossing T's. He's working on one thing about getting a building. Somebody else is working on another idea about, housing or whatever. The beauty of this is that you have to do it and do it publicly. There could be a simple, just a little, you could organize it yourself, a concert to raise money, but in effect, what your goal is to raise awareness in the community. That's the struggle for you right now. You got to get awareness. You have support from many people, but you need a broader support. And there's some billionaire out there, there's some millionaire out there, and there's maybe somebody who's got $20. But you've got to give them that route, that energy, that place to put it. And then you're off and running. I think is that the magic of it?
Sounds like what we're gonna do right here, and thank you all for helping us do that.
Yeah,
That is the point.
we need more than just that. I know it's a lot, and we have it, and I'm so grateful that we have it, but we also need a devoted party to sustain a music store. Like, we can have the funnel and we can have the people donating, but without that,
you will get that if you are sincere and direct your attention to raising public awareness. There is somebody sitting outside right now having dinner who has not even know what you're doing.
And are they
and you're going to reach out to them. You're going to, you right now don't have the money here, but you have money out there somewhere. It's an amazing, wonderful story. You just think about the kids who get their musical instruments from you. Every one of them has a parent. Every one of them has a grandparent. Every one of them has a fan who goes to the show and watches them. If there was a broader, sweeping idea of let's save an island music store, broader than the idea of, I think you're on your way.
I think one of the challenging things for us as a committee, if to sit and say, we should just do a fundraising concert, is, are we gonna be able to get musicians? I would assume yes, but we cannot just assume. Are we gonna get musicians that are willing to donate their time to put on a concert like that as a fundraising element? And that's just something that comes up whenever we discuss the opportunity of doing something, is do we have the manpower to
You have an amazing man sitting right here who knew how to save a museum.
I know.
You have a fellow who knew how to save a museum that was having a hard time. You have the resources. Let's bring them together.
We do need what Andy started with, which let's just call it a plan. The owner needs to be a partner in this thought. We really can't have a big concert here tonight without knowing. I know you're not saying that. The awareness is critical, but I would just say in the coming week, we will know, is somebody else buying this? We don't know that right now. To your point, we need to seal that deal, know what the number is, have better numbers on what it takes to fix it. We could not raise a penny at the museum if we didn't know what the hell it was for. We just need to get that more. You're absolutely right.
Amen.
We're on our way.
Yeah.
Amen.
Mark?
Hi.
You've been waiting to talk. Go ahead.
I'm seriously considering buying a store, but there are a lot of challenges, as we've all kicked around here. I would much rather be doing the deal and buying the building also. I can tell you that. It would probably be easier for me to raise money to buy the building than it would. The store I can do on my own. That's not the issue. But I've looked at the numbers, and it's really tight, and it would need... I have to leave for another meeting, but let me just, the things I heard tonight. Co-op is a great idea. That's a venue, a facility by which you can get people in the community vested. But all the talk is good, write the check. That's what it takes. Yes. We need to have the money raised. The co-op would be a great format for that. And I think whoever, Andy, you opened with it, you're gonna need some team leader, leader to run the charge who has experience in doing investments like this.
We have a few of those people, and I have been meeting with number of groups of people in an effort to just be the social connector to try and bring people together to make something work. But we do have that crucial, we need a building first.
Amen.
I think that is a major, if that is ruled out, then we look at other scenarios.
Correct.
But we need to get to that point. Finding out if it's a possibility to acquire the building, then go from there.
Right.
Quick clarification, when we're talking co-op, are we talking a workers co-op, or what type of co-op structure are we talking about when we mention a co-op?
It's a corporation that's got a special tax designation, I believe. I know co-ops in the venue of real estate. I'm from New York, and we have a lot of cooperative housing corporations. But there are all sorts of co-ops. True Value, for instance, is a co-op. I owned a lumberyard and retail store, like much akin to what you have here. And we had a big True Value in it, and you pay in a membership fee to be a part of the co-op. You actually own stock in the corporation, and then there's dividends paid. So if you wanted to go collect $10,000 a person and get 1,000 people or whatever you could do, a GoFundMe page would also not be a bad idea. But a lot of this has to be really thought out. It's not something you can just toss around and we have a month with regard to the store, basically. And there's been a lot of important points raised here. The condition that the building is in is definitely one. The current owner is going to have to accept a deep discount on the rent. Nobody's going into this thing during the renovation and construction period and pay them what they want. I've seen the numbers on what they want in the new rent. The P&L that I've seen cannot support that new rent. There's a lot of negotiation that has to go on there, and who knows? $4 million for that building, this is what I did.
Yeah.
It's inconceivable to me that 7 apartments and 2 stores can support that kind of number. Knowing, like everybody said, it's going to need a lot of capital improvements.
And it's needed that since before a car ran into the
Right.
building. It's not just because the car ran into the building.
But it's,
We did have a
I would
cooperative
rather-
artist guild here called Knob Knock It. I don't know if anybody remembers it, but
Well, I'd like
yeah.
to say on the topic of co-ops that my initial idea for a combined business was inspired by a place in Western Mass in East Hampton called the Luthiers Co-op.
Here, here.
And it is kind of a combined business where on one side there's a music store and literally a Luthiers Co-op with some guitar repair people working together to refurbish old instruments. It's mostly instruments being sold, used, and on consignment. There's also a performance space there and a small wraparound bar and some tables. On the other side is it's kind of a small eatery. This seems like it's proven to be a successful model. They have entertainment there for like 6 hours a night, 7 days.
It's outstanding.
On there.
I was right down the road for years. Outstanding.
You know, this place you started?
Proof of concept, something like this can work.
15. I have a couple of months, but my name's Rich House. Been on that over 3 years now. I just found this community thanks to the Times article. But I've been involved in nonprofits for a good part of my career. It seems like you got a couple points. You got to ask yourself. You got 3 things going on here. Do you want to say business? Do you want to say building? Or do you want to say both? And what's the most important thing to you? How locked in you are into this building. It seems it's very important to you to be in that building, from what I'm hearing tonight.
I think the answer is the hidden third option, the community.
Yeah.
I don't think to anyone in this building, the business or the building are nearly as important as what exists there. And that's part of the problem.
So then this community, so where can that community exist? And then, all right, so thinking of that is from the nonprofit mindset, my experience, you know, people like ideas and like solid ideas, and you get your ideas right, but that's, people invest in people, not in the idea. And it's those people that inspire, when you're talking to your fundraiser, the person that you're gonna make the big ask for, they have to believe in that it's your mission. So you need that person guiding this initiative. They're gonna see, this is the, I don't care about the idea, this person has it. Like, they're gonna make it happen no matter what. And those are the most successful people who lead nonprofits. And that's what's gonna get people to open their checkbooks. And it doesn't have to be one person, it can be the community. You can say, this is the community, but show them that community. These are the people in my community, and have that community speak together to that person, why it's important. So you come to that person, this is what we want to do.
I'm hoping we can show them this video.
I do think that the Island Music Store doesn't have to be in the same location. It wasn't originally in that location. And the original building still exists, sitting in an open lot on the wharf.
Where was it?
Not doing anything. It was on where the rental place is, with the car rental place. But yeah, right behind Sweet Bites on the other side.
Got it.
And they moved the building, and it's sitting in an empty lot doing nothing. And so I think that the fact that it has had its way around town, that it doesn't necessarily need to be in that building. So I think that, like, ideally, it's looking at the business and the community element of it, and the building is tertiary. I mean, I think there's an element that, like, yes, you have the 7 units, so that's a way of bringing in extra revenue to sustain it. If the base level part of it is the core element of the building, but I do think that it has viability to exist in whatever location is founded for it. But it'd be great to be here in Winter Haven, where it's lived all of its
I mean,
life.
it is also like a very visible place on Main Street, and it would really be a loss to lose I mean, Rachel and I were both in the Night Heron Gallery before they closed too. So like, it is Island Music, but that building has a history of more than music. And I mean, that goes back to the owner of the building too. He really cared.
And to have them, and again, back to like Mocha Mott's and the music store, that's a lot of change for Main Street in Haven.
Well, I was shocked to hear that the Capewalk building was the second longest continuing running theater in America before it closed. So like, there is like weird like history that we're just like, well, it can never be the second longest continuing ever again.
Well, I think also Andy made a really important point earlier about the housing, and that building having the housing built in, it's an opportunity to invest in the store and the community, and also affordable places to live, rather than having that building bought and developed in another way. So for the workforce housing.
We were also in Old Bluffs for quite a while, down by Sailor Beach, right next to it.
It used to be at Tisbury Marketplace, actually, also many, many years ago.
But we did not do as well, and we thought we would do better in Oak Bluffs because of the traffic and the people, but we did not do as well as we were on the end, kind of. Being in New Haven was much more profitable.
So just a question, we spend so much time taking tax money for the land bank, which is good. It's like we don't overbuild, we'll buy property. Housing bank, because people need housing, but it doesn't sound like they're doing anything for you people that are here, already living here, for your businesses and your storefronts, so that the prices are going to go so high that people that want to come in, they can't cover the nut in 3 months. So there seems to be, to me, like some of those monies, that if the island or the town wants to really be able to maintain stability and take care of the place, some of those monies should be funneled in to subsidize the businesses so that they can actually stay there and give you a nice stable front that the tourists want to come and see year after year, instead of somebody selling candles that moves every 2 months.
There's a possibility if the building's sold and there are those units upstairs and we had housing for employees, that also we might be able to, partner with, like, say, an Island Housing Trust or something like that to help, with affordable units upstairs that might ameliorate some of the other expenses.
Any ideas and insight you have is helpful to that end. I should also say that I have, in the idea of potentially renovating the building, in addition to people offering money to help save the music store, I've also had people offer in-kind donation of their labor and trades to renovate the building, which is not an insignificant cost of renovating a building. Because people care that much, and there are a lot of musically related, music dabbling people in the trades. And to the public money end, and this is kind of not related, but there are a lot of things I wanted to get across in this meeting, if you actually glance at the agenda, that I didn't get past the first bullet point. But I do want to just quickly say this one. We can keep talking about Island Music, but I also sit on the board. This is my second year on the Mass Cultural Council. And I have to say, just going through, we are in the process right now.
The Martha's Vineyard Cultural Council.
The local version of the Mass Cultural Council.
The MV Cultural Council.
Yes. And we field grant applications for the whole Islands arts community, and compared to my first year, we have significantly more ask. I mean, like 2-3 times as much. And we have a bit of an inflated budget this year, but that won't last. We have long-time strong arts organizations on the island, like the Yard, that are folding because they're losing their federal funding. Now is the time to go to your town. Now, we're too late to increase the amount of money that we asked for. Some of the money for the Mass Cultural Council comes from the state, some of it comes from each of 6 towns, and you vote on it every year at town meeting. Now is the time to double or triple down on that amount of money. It has not been raised much. There's been a campaign to raise it a little bit recently, but if we don't start asking our local people to pick up the tab when the federal government stops giving us money for those things, all of these artists doing these things will go away. All those things that you like will go away. So please stand up at your next town meeting, wherever you live, if it's Tisbury or somewhere else. I live in West Tisbury, but we need to try and get closer to making that ask, or all of these people that want to do these amazing things are going to stop doing them. Okay, that's it. We can keep talking about Island Music, but I wanted to get that one out before.
Can't you just, I'm sorry, just my ADD brain, can't you just go to each town and ask for more money now before the articles are filed? Because I think by the end of the, usually you have a couple of months now before where articles can get filed. And so I would, if you're on that council, I would talk to, go to each town with a bigger ask. But you need to do it soon because they'll cut off the articles, they'll get cut off.
But we also need to tell people why they have to pay more money for a thing.
Well, it's pretty obvious.
Maybe, I don't know. At West Tisbury, seemingly we pass things that make no sense to me, but we could have a whole other meeting about that. Thank you. Tristan,
is it a petition article? Can
No, I think
that be a money article?
Yeah, it could be, there's 2 ways. I believe this is still true, by the way, that 10 taxpayers in a town can put an article together, go before the Board of Selectmen, and they pretty much have to put it, put the article on. I mean, sometimes they don't, but I think by law or whatever, they have to. So yeah, I mean, they had, I don't remember the mechanism, but I remember the Cultural Council coming in and asking that I think it's a line item in Tisbury. Each town may handle it differently, ask for money. And they usually ask for a very nominal, when I was there, it was a pretty nominal amount.
For over 20 years, Tisbury's was 5,000.
Yeah, so
and then Rizwan, a couple of years ago, went to every single town, because he was the president of the MVCC at the time, and asked for an increase, so they raised it all the way to 7,500.
Yeah. So I would think that if whatever, you guys have to determine the amount, but I'm just saying that the season is now that you got to do that. That's all. So
yeah,
For perspective, the town spent like 50 to 100 times that much money replacing their landline telephones in the town hall. So I think that the towns can like pick up the tab.
But the other thing is too, is yes, we're a nonprofit as of last year. We initially came together before a lot of us were involved by being a designated cultural district by the Massachusetts Cultural Council, which requires us to work with our municipalities. So we could also, instead of asking for something to go additionally to the MBCC, have something so that it goes right into Vineyard Haven as well. But how that works, I'm learning. But right.
Well, to Tristan's point, we're running out of time for both the lease
Yeah, those,
and
I'm just
for
saying, the
next
articles, yeah, that, I would really,
right.
maybe, I mean, I could help if you wanna call me, but, you know, talk to the town, how do I get this on now? But, because there is a cutoff, I mean, there's a way to, if the cutoff happens, there's a way to, you don't wanna have to deal with that process. So I'm just saying, if you wanna ask for money, you know, get it together now, maybe find out the best mechanism I could help, and submit either, whether it's an increase in the budget or or an article. I don't remember the process here, but I do know that this is the season, and by the end of early January, it's pretty much their cutoff for stuff that's gonna go on the town meeting.
Yeah, it's always earlier than you think
Yeah.
it is.
I don't want to hold. One more person. I don't want to hold everybody hostage here. I could go on talking about all of this stuff because I'm a very passionate person. But I'm not going to hold you hostage in Katherine Cornell Theater. If you would like to discuss any of the other things on this agenda, like the potential alternate locations for my open mic, should we not be able to make something work with the storefront, any of the places that are current event spaces, and some of the ideas for the future, like taking up a lease on the Capitol Walk. Love to do another painted piano like the one at Oak Island Cronin's if you've ever seen that. I am happy to talk about any of those things individually with you. Does anybody else have anything specifically about what we have already talked about tonight?
Yeah, just to thank you. You're an amazing man.
Good
You've done so much.
Thank you everybody so much for, did you have something you wanted to add?
One kind of idea question that I was listening to everything, and someone that's like, I don't live here. I did for a little while. I was working for a nonprofit organization, but I work for another company that does a lot of work on the island. We're here in the winter every year all the time. Anyway, is there an option, say we're not able to buy the building, and it seems like Island Music, that brand, is really important to the company, to the community. Is there a way to retain that brand and use that as like our cultural, a way to get the community together, continuing that brand in some way? Whether we can use that name and turn that into the name of a nonprofit organization that has a mission of arts and music and bringing the community together. Something like that could continue that sort of, and then figuring out a space where we can continue to have those all the services that the music store had.
It's a good idea.
That's just
First
another
of all,
option.
yes, there is, and second of all, that may be an important thing to do. And I say that because, and I just saw and had a conversation with the previous owner today of Chilmark Chocolates. Does anybody know the story of Chilmark Chocolates and the closing of Chilmark Chocolates and what happened? They relinquished the name of the business, the DBA, and somebody bought it and profiteered off of their name. Pretty evil stuff. So yeah, that's worth thinking about.
That's interesting.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, really good point.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming, really. I appreciate it.